would like to now welcome our next guest, Eric Korhonen, who is the Director of Emergency Services and Fire Chief for North Frontenac, Ontario. Chief Korhonen is the 2018 recipient of the Ontario Association of Fire Chiefs FFIC of Canada Volunteer Firefighter Recruitment and Retention Award. And I have 10 questions on how he is working to address the volunteer challenges he faces using community-based strategies. Q&A to follow, so you can put those questions in anytime. Welcome, Chief.
Hello, Laura. Thank you very much for the opportunity, and Firefighter in Canada for inviting me. Thank you.
Well, thanks for joining us. Let's start with some background for context. So how long have you been in the fire service?
Relative to other chiefs, I'd say not very long, but I started in 2008. I was invited by a fire captain in the community to join the department, and it was a whirlwind after that. I attended the Fire College in Gravenhurst before its closure, as well as other regional training centers, RTCs, studying firefighting, pump operations, fire instructor, fire prevention, investigation. I enjoyed learning about the fire code and the FPPA, and was engaged in some prevention and response for about 7 years. In 2015, the municipality retained me as the fire chief.
All right. So can you tell us about the makeup of your fire department and community?
Sure can. North Frontenac is a rural community, 1,100 square kilometers, about 1,800 full-time residents, an influx of 10,000 seasonal. We are comprised of small rural hamlets, lakeside communities. Our building stock is primarily wood frame seasonal cottages, lakeside homes, some of them multi-seasonal. We don't have any what I would call, I'll come back to it. So we're primarily a bedroom community. We don't have any care facilities, retirement facilities, or heavy industry. Our primary industries are logging and recreation. Our municipality is made up of 3 wards. 2 and 3 are protected by the North Frontenac Fire Department, and Ward 1 is protected through a joint fire committee by the Caladarberry Fire Department, Fire Chief Cuddy's ward. Our 3 stations, Snow Road, Ampa, and Clarendon Miller, are made up of 2 divisions. So we currently engage our community by hiring firefighters, and then we also engage people who don't want to run into the burning building, work pumps. So they provide the medical response under our tiered medical agreement with the paramedics. We have on roster firefighters, certified firefighters, apparatus operators, station officers, safety officers, instructors, as well as a fire and life safety educator. We currently have several automatic aid agreements in place for protection of our outlying communities, and we have a tiered medical agreement with the Frontenac paramedics. We respond to about 125 calls a year, of which 80 are medical response. Like many other rural fire departments in Ontario, throughout Canada and the United States, we are having difficulty recruiting firefighters. And in Ontario, we're having difficulty meeting the certification requirements due to the availability of volunteers and the time commitments required for them to meet certification.
Okay. And how many firefighters do you have on hand then?
Currently on roster, we have 30 firefighters, and they're divided between the 3 halls.
Okay. So in 2018, sorry, as I mentioned, the North Frontenac Department won the OFC's FFIC of Canada Volunteer Firefighter Recruitment and Retention Award. So what initiatives were happening at that time that contributed to that honor?
We had just gone through a roster review, and we'd identified that many individuals had been on the roster for many years without ever having attended training or response. So they weren't meeting our requirements under our personnel policy and ENR bylaw. So after we reviewed the roster, we reduced it to about 40 firefighters, and it was trying to engage them, build their confidence, and recognize them for their participation as volunteer firefighters in the community, and to acknowledge their level of commitment. Um, one of the first things we did was we changed the way we interacted between stations. We changed the way they trained together. We also went to council and talked about the old point system where council had, through the budgetary process, created an allotment of funds for firefighters to receive as per diems and for response and training. But the system provided that the more a firefighter worked, the more they attended. Because of that structured pool, the less they made. So we had council's approval at that time, and we went to a tiered hourly system, which recognized the firefighters as a recruit or a firefighter or an officer, and it went to an hourly rate. Again, breaking down the silos was important at that time to have the firefighters train together. We had we have a saying: you train with the firefighters you respond with, and to show up on a very hazardous scene where the risks are high, it was imperative that they knew how everybody worked and what our protocols and policies were. So those were the things we adopted.
Okay, and then since 2018, what new strategies for recruitment are underway?
We continue to build on our initial strategies. I can say that in conversation with firefighters, oh, well, we'll go back to, one night a month training in your own hall. It's not received very well anymore. They do want to train together. They do want to be a very cohesive team. We're providing that level of certification that the province has mandated or legislated, and we're also providing opportunity for continuing education. Um, we're including the reimbursement of the firefighters' time who may have to take time off work or give up weekends to meet that certification. So it's when we're sending them to those RTCs, or if we're training in-house, they're paid and they're compensated for that time fairly. And this year we presented to council in our 2024 budget an opportunity to provide group benefits for volunteers. That is being reviewed by council and will come back to the table later this year, I hope.
Okay, and then how about retention?
So in order to retain a firefighter, you have to engage them, and Shaminda presented that very well. We need to recognize them for their efforts. So we continue to develop and focus on their continuing education and allowing them a chance to enhance their career. And we do hire internally, so we provide those opportunities for firefighters to become junior officers and officers and move up within the ranks. And then we continue to recognize them at annual events for achievements, life-saving, the most response, the most participation, and then we also recognize them for some of those events that make everybody in the room smile, kind of the black sheep one as well. So it's a rather engaging session, and we also recognize firefighters through our call reviews at regular training, where we thank them for a job well done or allow them the opportunity to express and engage the other firefighters with, why something was done and how it worked for the best.
Okay, and how about, are there any opportunities to advance within the department?
Definitely. We'll take a junior firefighter, certify them, move them to senior firefighter after they reach firefighter level 2 with their core operations under the standards. And from there, if they wish to pursue the fire prevention aspect or the life safety educator or become an officer at a station, those are all things we consider based on their level of interest.
Okay, and so out of your strategies, which community, sorry, based strategies do you feel make the biggest impact?
Oh boy. Providing the opportunities for firefighters to offset their income at a fair value. I believe that firefighters today struggle with family life and work as volunteers, time commitments. So recognizing that they're giving up that commitment to become a certified firefighter, which takes about 160 hours, and then the training once a week, as well as the response at all hours of the day. It's providing them a fair reimbursement for their time. We also like to engage our firefighters in community events. Very rarely do we get to see the people we help after we've helped them, and the opportunity for them to meet and engage the people they're there to protect and serve, also provides that firefighter with a sense of accomplishment.
Okay. What do you see being some of the key challenges underpinning recruitment right now?
I think a lot of these challenges are being expressed by many rural fire chiefs, not only in Ontario but throughout the continent. Um, the migration of our potential candidates, and that's the young, and as they finish school and they move to the city for employment and continued education. Reduced opportunities in our own small rural communities for a gainful employment to support their families. The increase in costs to train and certify recruits to the legislated levels. The time commitment, as I stated previously, of a volunteer, um, to balance that personal employment family life while meeting the requirements that we require of them to obtain their certification and be an active member. Um, the increasing costs to the residents in their taxes to support and retain the level of services that they want, without suggesting to council that we reduce the levels of service, and the increasing levels of service expected by new residents in our community as people migrate from large urban centers to rural communities for retirement or to buy that idyllic, lakeside living. They're expecting that urban response from a rural fire department made up of volunteers that have a day job and wake up at 2 in the morning in that grog and rush to the hall and then rush to do the duties that we've assigned them. Those are the primary concerns, I think.
Okay, so if you had to narrow it down to one number one challenge.
The number one challenge facing rural departments today, I believe, in a rural community, is the availability of committed individuals with the required time to become a certified firefighter while balancing their family life, personal life, and their regular jobs.
Okay, what solutions at a national level would you like to see? Why?
Bill 310, I think, is a really good start. It's going to provide that volunteer individual struggling with those monetary concerns an ability to make that $10,000 tax credit claim. And I think that would help them greatly at a national level.
Okay, and then end on a conversation I think has been pretty topical these days. Now, do you feel the current volunteer model is sustainable in its current form, and why or why not?
So I'm going to caveat this with my personal opinion, is
Mhm.
I do not believe it's sustainable. Um, I believe as the national, provincial levels um, require fire departments to attain levels of certification that urban departments um, already have. They're able to train more effectively, I believe. They're hiring certified firefighters to begin with, usually. I think we take in again those same individuals that have life and other commitments and expect them to attain that level of certification knowledge and understanding to do a similar job as an urban firefighter in a rural environment. So again, council sets the level of service, but we're expected to put out the fire, respond to the medical, open up the car and cut the body and extricate, um, as volunteers on limited time, in some municipal rural environments, limited resources. And um, yeah, it's not sustainable in its current format. Something has to change, whether it's support provincially, with the assistance in training. And I understand that receiving training resources and books is wonderful. It's costing some departments in excess of $2,000 and $3,000 to certify these firefighters to the level required. So, as our populations age, as our children leave, um, as as time evolves, it's not sustainable.
All right. Well, that wraps up my line of questioning. So I can open it up for questions in the Q&A, which don't have any coming in yet. I have somebody say, well stated. So shall say, much of this has been very well stated, Eric. Thank you. Perhaps while we're just keeping an eye out to see if anyone has any questions. We have another few minutes here. Are there any particular, like in terms of your recognition, programs or events, is there something particularly unique that you think you guys are doing that's kind of a fun idea that we might be able to flesh out a little bit more?
I want to say Shaminda had some wonderful ideas. I know that we do. We provide certificates, and it's not just that one-time event, but when we do have that one-time event, it's a special event. Um, when we have them engage the public, it's special. Not only do they feel confident in their abilities and pleased with the public response. I think it's that good feeling that what I'm providing has value, not just to the community, but to myself. So that confidence building, the engagement, everything we talk about, for a volunteer firefighter, it is the truth.
Yeah, for sure. Does North Frontenac, I have some questions coming here, have any full-time members, or are all the members paid on call?
Okay. So North Frontenac is comprised of all volunteer. The only persons on payroll are myself full time, and I have a part time assistant fire chief who is filling my boots while I'm on the East Coast.
Okay. And do you feel you have gotten to the sweet spot of the number of members you ideally need? And is there a focus on the numbers of daytime people versus all hours people? Looking to
Thanks.
those who work from home and can respond versus work at a location and cannot get away.
Very good question, Steve. I understand that. Ideally, I would like to have on roster 15 firefighters per station. So 3 stations for North Frontenac would be an ideal sweet spot for me. And I can say that during the daytime, my level of response is slightly reduced due to the fact that a lot of those people are attending their day jobs. I have a really strong response in the evening, and relying on my first responders, my medical team, my evening, night, 2 o'clock in the morning response is absolutely amazing. They also manage our rehab centers at any large calls where my firefighters need, medical attention, or we're taking their stats every half hour.
Okay, and I lost my next question here, sorry. And could you perhaps elaborate a little bit on the division of response in that some only respond to the medical calls, the ones that maybe aren't keen on fighting fires, and what certifications those members need, the ones that aren't doing the fire fighting?
Certainly, Sean, good question. Um, I'll say the 2 divisions, and I could even divide it down into a third division. Our apparatus operators require bunker gear, SCBA training in case the incident goes sideways. They only drive apparatus, so they tend to be a more senior firefighter who's comfortable and very learned and qualified to drive heavy apparatus. Our medical responders are certified first aid under Red Cross to an emergency first responder. They take CPR, AED. I can proudly say that we've had several saves over the years, not just for heart attacks, but for opioids and in the administration of naloxone. So our first responders team is second to none. And again, when it comes to protecting the firefighters, they're amazing. They do respond to fire scenes, but they are isolated to the coal zone.
And then how important is supervisory or leadership skill to attract and retain volunteers?
Um, I think every firefighter is part of that fire life safety educator component where they can express to the community that we need firefighters. We need to engage our community. That is part of our strategy. That is our forward facing teams and crews. And we even teach our officers a little bit more so that we're building on that process.
Okay, that kind of builds into our next question a little bit, which would just be some general tips to keeping firefighters engaged.
Recognizing them for their accomplishments, large and small, providing them an opportunity to train to the standard, but understanding that everybody needs to smile while they're doing that. So engage them and allow them to participate at their levels sometimes. And that doesn't mean boisterous or joking around, but a prime example would be I had a previous assistant fire chief who took a couple of rollers, threw a table on top of it, filled it with tennis balls, and then had the guys use the extrication equipment to, and I'm sure many of you have seen this, roll that ball through gateways. It turned into a wonderful training experience, and it's engaging them in those methods.
Okay, we've got a couple budget questions go
Mm,
through here, which I think they are key ones, and aren't they?
aren't they?
How is your hourly rate process outlined as is with annual stipend, paid per practice?
So, fair question. Currently, we're reviewing it. When we started back in 2018, we tried to make it, that when a recruit joined, they would make less than a firefighter. So the $20 an hour mark. And then we just kind of went from there. Through the years, council's been very supportive. They've added cost of livings to it. Those rates have increased. I will say we are commensurate with any fire department in and around North Frontenac, and most fire departments in Eastern Ontario. So, our training is a flat rate. Our hourly rate is for response, any certification they attend, classes, courses. That's what I have on that. Yeah.
Okay, then funding through the municipality being a big challenge. Do you have any tips for how you can kind of convince council of the funding required, to get the
Um,
department to the level they need to be at?
it's been my experience that councils do not want to cut service. And one of our biggest concerns is, as chiefs and senior officers, is that in order to continue to provide those levels of service expected by our communities, there's a cost. And that cost is training, and above and beyond all else is firefighter safety. So that means proper PPE, proper equipment, etc. The last thing they want is a firefighter injury. Um, but in order to present to council that they need to pay firefighters accordingly, whether it's a point system that increases with the amount of work the firefighter does, or a change to hourly rates, they don't want to cut services. They have to step up as well.
Okay. And is it possible, are you able to share what your annual training budget is? I'm curious about
We
that.
just went through our budget process and completed last week, and I want to say, and I'm going to mess this up because I asked for a little bit more, and We're looking at BEV training now. We're all experiencing electric vehicles coming into our communities. So I want to say they've increased it to about 17, but that's inclusive of my other departments and that whole training budget.
Okay. And would the level of certification help if the timelines were longer and only for firefighters or officers?
I think the provincial requirement for the training window is fair, and that includes after July 2026. I think it's a fair gambit. What I think we need to review is the cost for that individual to give up their livelihood to get that training. We don't want firefighters on a fire scene that aren't qualified or maybe a jeopardy to themselves or their team. So I think the faster the better. Whether we revisit some type of training facility or make it more readily available or assistance for fire departments in smaller communities that struggle to make that. I don't have the answers, but I believe that the certification window is appropriate.
Okay. And then do your members respond to the scene or the station prior to response?
Oh, good question. Currently, we're going through all members to stations until all required apparatus have been dispatched, and then to scene. And that is at the instruction of command. So we need to ensure that we have all, pumpers, tankers. We are using shuttle for water service. So we need everybody and every piece of equipment on scene that we need. Once that's there, then the firefighters through the radio system will be directed by command to attend direct.
Okay. Do you have a sense of what the average rate for paid on call would be for volunteer halls?
Volunteer halls, I can tell you we started at, and I'm seeing Trent's comment.
Mhm.
We did start around the $16 an hour in 2018. We are closer to the $20 range for recruits because the requirements on them are greater now than they were. And our officers are around the 20, I believe 25 to $26 an hour mark.
Okay. All right. Well, that might wrap up our questions. You had a fair number.
It's wonderful, and I can say, Laura, some of the questions and comments I'm seeing are specific to rural departments. They are not um, individualized. It's my experience and conversations with other the chiefs. We're all in the same boat. We're struggling with how do we get volunteers? How do we keep them? How do we train them to be safe and certified? And yeah, at the end of the day, how do we evolve our fire departments to meet all the requirements?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we'll try and get these last two questions in here that just dropped in. So your rank structure, do you have junior firefighter, senior firefighter, lieutenants, captain, chief, that kind of standard?
Very good, Sean. Recruit, firefighter, so that's certified to level 1. Senior firefighter, certified to level 2 with core operations. And then we have station captains because of our current number of firefighters to number of officers. If I had the 15, it'd be 2 to 1. And then we have obviously the assistant fire chief and myself. And I will add, not to exclude Michelle, she is my senior first responder, and she manages um, my medical response team.
Okay. And last question. Do you feel that POC is the way to go?
Please clarify POC for me.
I'm going to guess this means maybe paid on call.
Oh, paid on call. We just pay them. On call, we tried a paid on call system. We struggled with weekend attendance when our population is at its highest in the summer. And we went for a paid on call Saturday, Sundays. And the pickup or the take up was very minimal. We did much better by just saying, talk to your crews, talk to your teams, make sure we have sufficient firefighters in the community to respond, and people would schedule their lives accordingly. So again, a very rural community-minded department is very strong at its core. They do work together, but we're getting smaller and smaller.
Absolutely. Thank you, Eric, for sharing your thoughts with us. I think your sentiments are echoed across Canada, I'm sure. This is definitely a national challenge that the fire service is facing on this volunteer side and in our rural communities.